In this video, I'm going to identify the major problems with Avatar, give solutions to those problems, and present a new version of the story to you today. And if you're interested in working with me to identify and solve every major problem in your feature-length screenplay, then click the link below and we can discuss working together one-on-one on your script. For now, let's fix Avatar. Avatar begins and we meet Jake, a paralyzed ex-Marine who is given the opportunity to travel to a planet called Pandora to be a part of a science experiment after his brother tragically dies. When Jake arrives on Pandora, we meet our cast of characters. Colonel Miles Quaritch is the archetypal ex-military operative in charge. He views the planet through a militaristic and survival lens. Dr. Grace Augustine is the archetypal scientist, here to study, explore, and find harmony with the planet as well as with the indigenous people called the Na'vi. And we have our final archetypal character, Parker Selfridge. He is the evil, greedy capitalist who runs the entire operation for the RDA. His only goal is to turn a profit for the shareholders back on Earth. The reason I mentioned archetypal on all three of these characters is that they very much stay one-dimensional throughout the course of the story. None of them have any notable character arcs or any real nuance to them. It's here we also learn about the humans' mission here on Pandora, to extract unobtainium.
This is why we're here. Unobtainium. Because this little gray rock sells for 20 million a kilo. That's the only reason. It's what pays for the whole party. It's what pays for your science.
We are told that the unobtainium is extremely valuable and used for energy conduction, but that's all we learn about it. It's the sole reason Parker is on Pandora running this massive operation. And Jake's task is to learn about the Na'vi, the indigenous alien race that lives on the planet, so that he can help the humans find and mine as much unobtainium as possible. Once we get through meeting the characters and the initial exposition about unobtainium, Jake is able to try on his new Na'vi body. After getting the hang of it, he goes on an expedition with Dr. Augustine into the great unknown jungle. It's here he is attacked by a monster and separated from the group. After struggling to survive in the jungle, he is saved by Neytiri, the first real Na'vi Jake meets. While the Na'vi and the humans are enemies, Neytiri decides to save Jake's life because
you have a strong heart.
While they are in the jungle together, sacred saplings rest on Jake and Neytiri sees this as a sign. Tsute, the tribe's best warrior and Neytiri's arranged lover, finds Neytiri and Jake in the jungle and brings them to the Na'vi village after Neytiri explains the sign she saw. The chief is angry that Jake has been brought here, but ultimately they decide that Neytiri will teach Jake their ways. In Act 2, Jake begins learning more about Pandora and the Na'vi from Neytiri, and they begin to show signs of romance. After coming back to the humans and telling them about what happened, they task him with finding out what the Na'vi want. And Parker explains that the biggest deposit of unobtainium is sitting right under the Na'vi home tree.
I mean, look at all that cheddar.
Jake needs to get them to move, or Colonel Quaritch will do it with force. Dr. Augustine moves her research team to a remote location, and from this point in the story, Jake spends most of his time chilling with Neytiri and taming a banshee. He also learns about the Torok, or Last Shadow, a mighty flying creature that few Na'vi have ridden. It is a sign of power and unity. After a few months of being a part of the Na'vi, Colonel Quaritch tells Jake it's time to come in, and that he will get his legs back. But Jake refuses. He's starting to fall for the Na'vi people and doesn't want to leave. He chooses the Na'vi over the humans for the first time, and Quaritch begins to doubt Jake's loyalty. After this, he visits the Tree of Souls with Neytiri and decides to sleep with the next spiritual leader of the clan, and also screw over his new ally, Tsute, who is supposed to be with Neytiri. In Act 2, Part 2, the bulldozers come to destroy the Na'vi home tree and take the unobtainium from under it. Seeing this, Jake helps the Na'vi. Colonel Quaritch recognizes Jake on the bulldozer camera and is filled with rage. Tsute also turns on Jake after the attack, seeing him as just one of the humans. Quaritch grabs Dr. Augustine and Jake from the research lab and brings them back. Grace tries to explain to Parker that
the wealth of this world
isn't in the ground. It's all around us.
And again, this doesn't really mean much to us. Sure, it might be cool, but what does it matter? How does it actually impact our understanding of what's meaningful in this story? What the humans want and what Dr. Augustine uses to defend the Na'vi are both vague concepts that don't mean anything for the audience or for the characters either. Quaritch knows, with the help of Jake's video logs, that the Na'vi aren't going to make a deal, so he convinces Parker to let him move in on Mowery with his men.
When people are sitting on shit that you want, you'll make them your enemy. And then you're justified in taking it.
Jake convinces Parker to let him talk to the Na'vi to get them to move, which doesn't make a lot of sense considering he just said they would never ever move like 2 scenes ago, but we continue. Negotiations with the Na'vi do not go well, and Jake and Grace end up bound and on the front lines of Mowery as the humans move in. Queen Moat sets Jake free as Colonel Quaritch and the humans destroy Mowery, and Chief Etukan is killed in the attack. With the death of the chief, Tsute is now running the tribe. Jake goes and tames the Great Toruk and flies it to the tribe. He uses the Toruk to convince Tsute to help him unite the tribes for a final defensive battle against the humans. But after being shot, Dr. Augustine is dying. They try to transmit her mind into her Na'vi form, but it fails.
She is with A1 now.
But they can't mourn long as Quaritch is mounting a massive attack. The humans and Na'vi clash among the floating mountains. Here we have a long drawn-out battle, mainly full of external ups and downs, that ultimately ends with Jake and Quaritch facing off against each other.
How's it feel to betray your own race? You think you're one of them? Time to wake up.
Neytiri shoots Quaritch with an arrow, ending the fight. Jake and the Na'vi win, and at the very end, the humans leave Pandora, and Jake fully becomes a Na'vi, clan leader, and is bonded to Neytiri. So let's think about this ending for a moment from a thematic standpoint. This white guy encounters an indigenous group of people, really likes their way of life, and just so totally hates when those pesky other humans take what isn't theirs. So he sleeps with the spoken-for daughter of the chief, casually fulfills one of their greatest prophecies in taming Toruk, and steals the leadership of the clan from Tsute, and even uses their most sacred tree to fully become one of them. This is the guy who hates when other humans take what isn't theirs? Interesting. There is a fundamental contradiction in the theme of this film. It's okay if Jake takes whatever he wants, but not the other humans. Now let's talk about clarifying the philosophical dilemma, strengthening the characters, and rebuilding this story. Let's take a second to actually think about the theme Avatar is trying to represent. It makes this thematic statement 2/3 of the way through the film.
When people are sitting on shit that you want, you'll make them your enemy. And then you're justified in taking it.
Which sounds nice, but what does Jake actually do in the story? He wants Neytiri, he takes her from Tsute. He wants to be part of the Na'vi, but they don't want him. Rather than saying, okay, cool, he continues to impose his will upon them until he is literally running the clan, usurping Tsute, taking his woman, and declaring that not only is he a Na'vi, he can be one of them better than they can, and he should run everything. So I don't think that was the intention, so we'll need to adjust Jake's character to better fit the theme. What we can do is challenge Jake on what he wants. We can build a stronger philosophical dilemma by having characters like Quaritch actually call him out on this behavior. Now let's build a genuine philosophical dilemma. There are 2 viewpoints in conflict in Avatar. Viewpoint 1. Grow, explore, and conquer freely. A passion to grow and expand is a good thing, and we should not lessen our efforts. The pro of this is that when you expand and explore freely, you leave a bigger mark on the universe. You can find interesting new worlds and technologies that you can harness to grow your civilization, save lives, and become stronger. Now there is a con. This comes at the cost of destroying the home of the indigenous people, the animals, and the environment that you take over. Now let's look at the opposing viewpoint, viewpoint 2. We should find balance with the environment and flow through it, rather than holding on to our egoic goals. We are most at harmony with nature when we are coexisting with it, not trying to change it. The pro of this is that it allows you to find coexistence in the present moment. It allows you to be in tune with the flow of nature rather than fighting against the current. But there is a con. This comes at the cost of exploration, expansion, potentially life-saving technology, and valuable resources that could further grow your people. Now let's apply these viewpoints to Avatar. First, there's one clear change that can be made to the story that if only this simple thing was changed, it would have helped the film's story greatly. We need to clarify why the unobtainium is actually important, rather than just being some abstract thing that is worth money. If the humans have a much clearer justification for why they want to harvest the unobtainium, then we actually have a dilemma versus what we have now, which is that the humans are archetypically evil and Jake simply must save the Na'vi. So I'm going to make this change to unobtainium. Unobtainium isn't just an energy source. It's a healing source, a life-giving source. It can power rocket ships, cure diseases for humans back on Earth, reverse aging, and even give Jake his real legs back. This last point is important because now I am specifying why the unobtainium is valuable specifically to our protagonist, not just this lofty goal of saving lives. When the audience can understand why the humans and Jake would desperately want this unobtainium, the dilemma of the story becomes much more interesting rather than being so obviously black and white. Now let's adjust the characters and clarify their beliefs before going into the rewritten story. Rather than Jake simply taking the job because he has nothing better to do, he comes into this new job on Pandora as an opportunity to explore a new world. He believes in viewpoint 1. His view in the beginning is similar to Colonel Quaritch. He has an explore and expand mindset. As our protagonist, he is the centerpiece of our story. The rest of the characters will challenge and pull Jake in different directions as he struggles with the philosophical dilemma. Neytiri believes deeply in the symbiosis of nature. She wants to be a part of her environment rather than changing it dramatically. And she is the one that helps Jake see the world from the Na'vi perspective. Neytiri challenges Jake's belief that in a few quick months he can just understand the Na'vi. She likes him and she sees that he wants to learn, but she isn't naive. She doesn't simply fall for him because he's around and interested. Colonel Quaritch believes in expansion. He wants to see new worlds. It's what he signed up for in the military. Quaritch wants to see humanity grow and expand, and he wants to lead humanity into the wild to find riches and new technology. Dr. Augustine is conflicted like Jake. She wants samples of Home Tree and of the Tree of Souls, but she feels horrible for disrupting the Na'vi. Jake can challenge her on her disdain for the military and money-making operations. Jake says Dr. Augustine is a part of their machine too. She's an outsider looking in at what isn't hers. Parker Selfridge believes that getting this unobtainium will not only be very profitable for him, but also he is directly involved in helping humanity. Rather than him being the over-the-top douchebag capitalist, he is leading his massive team by showing them how valuable their work will be for those back home. He is charismatic, well-spoken, and sometimes even liked by Dr. Augustine. Tsute believes in symbiosis with nature, but he also believes in taking on threats when they arise. The humans are a threat to Pandora's natural order, and he is looking for a reason to start a conflict. Rather than being oblivious, Tsute sees through Jake's plan almost instantly. He knows Jake was sent into the village for a reason, and he can challenge Jake later on. Tsute also challenges Jake in his belief that he can become not only a Na'vi, but that he's qualified to be the chief of a tribe. Tsute shows him the error in this line of thinking. Now that we have new characters with clearer beliefs that create a genuine philosophical dilemma for Jake, let's jump into my new version of the story. In Act 1, our main character is Jake, a paralyzed ex-Marine who is headed to Pandora because his brother died tragically, and Jake is taking his place in the Avatar program. Jake wants to explore, expand, and see new worlds. He arrives on Pandora and immediately ends up in a new problem. He's stuck between Dr. Grace Augustine and Colonel Quaritch. Grace is here to study and learn about this new world. Quaritch is here to conquer it. We also meet Parker Selfridge, and he gives Jake an understanding of how valuable unobtainium is. It's an energy source, a healing source, a life-giving source. Because of its life-giving energy, it can power rocket ships, cure diseases, reverse aging, and even give Jake his real legs back. Since Jake's an ex-Marine, he sides with Colonel Quaritch. So when Jake enters work with Dr. Augustine, his goal is to help Quaritch and Parker get more unobtainium. Here he finally gets his opportunity to explore Pandora in his new avatar. Pandora is a beautiful planet with a jungle full of life. He's awestruck by what he sees, and his Na'vi body seems weirdly connected with the world around him. But as he explores with Dr. Augustine's team, he is attacked by an alien animal and gets separated. He tries to find his way back, but everything in the jungle wants to kill him. Neytiri finds him and saves his life. They travel the jungle together, and Jake learns about Neytiri and the Na'vi's symbiosis with their environment. It's a way of life he's never experienced. He gets a clear understanding of how the Na'vi see the world, very different from the militaristic humans. He asks to be brought to her village, but she says no. He's an outsider. She shows him the way back to his base and tells him that his people are dangerous. She knows they take what isn't theirs and will harm whoever stands in their way. Jake has now felt his first connection to the Na'vi. In Act 2, Part 1, Neytiri returns to the village. Tsute has been watching her. He knows she interacted with the enemy and helped him. Tsute is not naive. The human avatars are not here to be allies. He says eventually the avatars will be used as weapons against the village. Neytiri isn't so sure, but the chief agrees with Tsute. Jake cannot be trusted. Meanwhile, Jake has returned to base, but wants to find the village and integrate further into the Na'vi. But there's a new problem. Dr. Augustine says Jake can't go back out. She can't have another incident like that, losing an avatar in the jungle. But Quaritch is interested in this new intel. He questions Jake about where Neytiri found him. How far out? How did they return? Jake gives up all this information immediately. Grace is adamant that Jake can't go back out for a while. But later on, Quaritch tells Jake quietly that if he can get in an avatar, Quaritch will look the other way if Jake chooses to escape the base. And Quaritch reminds him, if Jake succeeds in helping him get unobtainium, he can get his legs back. Jake chooses to go back out to find the Na'vi, without Dr. Augustine's knowledge and with the approval of Quaritch. He escapes the base and searches for Neytiri in the jungle. Jake returns to the area where Neytiri found him and waits. After a while, Neytiri shows up. Jake smiles and jokes that she just couldn't stay away. Neytiri rolls her eyes, and Jake sincerely tells her that he wants to learn about the Na'vi, the jungle, all of it. Neytiri gives in and she teaches him about the ways of the Na'vi. Throughout this time, she also explains to him the Toruk, the great flying animal that few Na'vi have ever ridden. And once he has earned her trust, she takes him to the Tree of Souls and tells Jake about Ewa, their goddess. The second Jake sees the tree, he is in awe. Immediately, he reaches out to pull off a piece of the tree to take as a sample. Neytiri shrieks in anger. She says, "You can't be one of us. You think like a human, always taking, changing, grabbing. You don't know how to be one with the world around you." As she yells at Jake, Tsute and his warriors enter the area. He scolds Neytiri for bringing Jake to this sacred place. Tsute captures Jake, blindfolds him, and takes him to the village. In the village, Tsute tells Jake he isn't stupid. He knows what he's looking for. The spirit rocks, the essence that keeps the village and its people alive and in tune with the world around them. Tsute will not allow this to happen and asks the chief to kill Jake now. But Neytiri begs her father to give mercy, and she tries to reason with Jake. For the humans to take the unobtainium, it would lead to certain death for the Na'vi people. If he truly cares about them, and about her, he must lead the humans away from this place. Jake is now conflicted. He sees that this is their home, and the energy created from the unobtainium allows the Na'vi to flourish. Jake makes a decision and says he will help lead the humans away. Tsute isn't convinced, but Neytiri says that Jake is their only chance of stopping the humans. Back at the base, Dr. Augustine is livid that Jake was able to get out. She wakes Jake up and forces him to explain himself. Jake says he is out in his avatar looking for the village. Quaritch backs Jake up, even to Parker, saying that finding their home is paramount and they have their first serious lead. But when asked if he has found anything, Jake says no. He says he is simply scouting the jungle in the area where Neytiri found him. Something feels off to Quaritch, so he sends his men to scout in their mech suits as reinforcements. In Act 2, Part 2, back in the village, Tsute offers Jake a test. Prove you can see the world like we do. Prove you are not just lying. Tame a banshee. If you die, you die. If you tame it, you can use it to return. Meanwhile, Quaritch's scouts have been searching the area where Jake got lost and picked up readings on a massive unobtainium deposit right under the Na'vi's home tree, and they don't even know that's where the village is. In the floating mountains, Jake struggles, but is able to tame the banshee. And just as he does, Neytiri flies up on her banshee, saying that the humans are moving against home tree. Jake and Tsute rush back to the village on banshees. Jake fights alongside Tsute and Neytiri to stop the bulldozers, and they're able to stop them, at least temporarily. But Quaritch recognizes Jake on the dozer cameras and realizes he has switched sides. He also realizes if Jake was defending the unobtainium, that tree must be where the village is. Quaritch tells the dozers to get back online and keep pushing. He rallies his pilots and brings his army to support the dozers. Quaritch hits home tree hard and a one-sided fight ensues. Jake does what he can, but the human ships are too strong. The chief is killed in the fight. Jake helps what Na'vi he can and he tries to go with them, but Tsute stops him. He says that Jake is the reason the humans found them. Neytiri goes with Tsute, choosing him over Jake. Tsute says if he follows them, he will kill Jake himself. Quaritch opens Jake's pod and throws him into a cell, with his avatar body still out in the jungle. And here, Quaritch sits down with Jake and says that the Na'vi have minerals with intense healing powers, a tree they used to get ancient wisdom from their goddess. But where is their mark on the universe? Where are their monuments, their civilization? Where is their pursuit of science, of technology? Quaritch says that the Na'vi hate the humans' gray metal ships. They're machines. They think we're destroyers. But what allowed us to get here? What allowed us to see new worlds, to learn, to expand into the great unknown and discover new species of life, and a new healing mineral that could save millions of humans back on Earth, and it might have even been able to save your brother. You talk about us taking what isn't ours. That woman isn't yours. That tribe isn't yours. This planet isn't yours. What makes you think you're one of them? As Jake sits in his cell, he's conflicted. Did he go too far in siding with the Na'vi? They still don't believe he is one of them. Is he going to risk everything to save these people that haven't even accepted him? But Jake chooses the Na'vi way. With the unlikely help of Dr. Augustine, he escapes from the base with a clear plan in mind. And now we enter Act 3. Jake wants to save the Na'vi and stop the humans from taking the unobtainium and destroying the Tree of Souls. Now that Home Tree is taken, Quaritch is assembling a full force to attack the Tree of Souls. Jake goes out into the floating mountains with his Banshee, and, at the highest peak, finds the Toruk. When he gets to the Toruk, he attacks it, struggling with the creature. But it's too strong. It throws him around like a rag doll. Every time Jake tries to jump on him, it throws him off, laughing at him. Each time it throws him, Jake almost falls into the massive empty space below. But then, Jake stops trying to conquer the animal. He lets go of his human view, and the next time the Torok throws him, he allows himself to be thrown from the floating rock. Jake falls faster and faster towards certain death below. His banshee dives after him, but he's falling too fast. Jake closes his eyes, accepting death. Nothing but acceptance. And just as he does, the Torok saves him with a twinkle in its eye. Jake smiles, and they go to find the tribe. Jake returns to Tsute and Neytiri with the Torok. Tsute recognizes the meaning of this and allows Jake to speak. Jake begs him to quickly assemble an army to stop the humans that will be at the Tree of Souls within hours. Tsute agrees, but there isn't enough time. The humans get to the floating mountains faster than Jake thought, headed directly for the Tree of Souls. Jake and Tsute gather what forces they can, hop on banshees, and fly directly for the Tree of Souls, led by Jake and the Torok. They intercept the human ships in the floating mountains and attack. The Na'vi take heavy losses, but they are able to take down many human gunships. Tsute and Jake work well as a team, until only Quaritch's ship remains. But he's getting through. Quaritch can see the Tree of Souls. Jake gets inside Quaritch's ship and immobilizes his men, but Quaritch shoots Jake's avatar body. Quaritch pushes the ship to full speed directly at the Tree of Souls, headed on a suicide course. And here, Jake makes his final choice. He chooses to give his life for the Na'vi people. He gathers the last of his strength and lunges at Quaritch. He throws him aside and grabs the ship's controls. He veers the ship as hard as he can to the right and smashes into the ground, saving the Tree of Souls and the Na'vi people, but at the cost of his life. And finally, Tsute says that Jake truly was one of them. The humans leave Pandora, and the Na'vi hold a ceremony in honor of Jake, led by Neytiri and Tsute. The end. Now, of course, you could spend months perfecting this, but this is a quick version of what the story could look like. And if you're interested in working with me to identify and solve every major problem in your feature-length screenplay draft, then click the link below and we can discuss working together one-on-one on your script. Thanks for watching.